Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the deep, layered history of Malawi, a nation defined by incredible natural assets and striking socio-economic paradoxes. If you've ever wondered how history, geography, and governance literally collide to shape the destiny of a country, you are in the perfect place.
To truly grasp this country's story, we've got to start with the stunning blue waters of Lake Malawi. Get this massive body of water alone houses roughly 180 endemic fish species. That means they are found absolutely nowhere else on Earth. For centuries, this lake has been the absolute lifeblood for the people, providing a vital source of protein and an economic foundation for the vast majority of the population living along its shores.
But, that brings us to a fascinating and honestly tragic puzzle that we're going to unravel together today. How exactly did a land so incredibly rich in natural resources, with such fertile soil and abundant fresh water, become one of the poorest globally? What happened between the ancient days of untouched resources and the modern economic struggles we see today?
It's the ultimate paradox. On one hand, you've got the massive potential of the warm heart of Africa, the third largest lake on the continent, incredible agricultural capacity, and a deeply rich multi-ethnic heritage. Yet the socio-economic reality hits hard. We're looking at a GDP per capita hovering around just $860, severe and deeply entrenched rural poverty, and a heartbreakingly low life expectancy of roughly 46 years.
To make sense of all this, we're tracing the arc of Malawi's history through 5 key eras: the warm heart of Africa, the colonial era, independence and iron rule, the democratic transition, and finally, modern challenges and opportunities. Part 1. The warm heart of Africa. Our story actually begins deep in the pre-colonial era, centuries before any borders were drawn by foreign powers or modern states even existed.
Long before those borders were drawn, the original inhabitants here were the peaceful, nomadic hunter-gatherers known as the Bantu. But jump back about 2,000 years ago, and they were eventually replaced by migrating Bantu-speaking tribes. These newcomers brought some serious game changers with them, stuff like metallurgy, agriculture, and animal husbandry. It completely transformed the region from nomadic groups into highly structured, organized matrilineal monarchies and chiefdoms.
Section 2. The colonial era. That ancient, established balance, it was abruptly shattered in the mid-19th century.
The disruption happened incredibly fast. In 1859, European explorers, missionaries, and traders arrived at Lake Nyasa, searching initially for ivory and slaves, and later for highly profitable cash crops. By 1884, driven by the notorious Berlin Conference, the scramble for Africa was in full swing. The British moved in quickly to block Portuguese expansion from the east, systematically slicing up traditional lands until, by 1907, the territory officially became the British Nyasaland Protectorate.
This right here is where the economic foundation of the country was fundamentally fractured. The British administration forcefully rewired the whole economy. Step 1. Indigenous peoples were pushed right off their prime water-rich real estate. Step 2. Forced cash cropping, making locals grow cotton and tobacco. That paved the way for massive European-owned agricultural estates. And the final blow? The mass export of cheap indigenous labor to mines down south. It created a profound structural imbalance that still haunts the nation's economy today.
Section 3. Independence and iron rule. Out of all that colonial exploitation emerged a fierce, determined independence movement.
This movement was spearheaded by the Nyasaland African Congress and a very complex figure, a US and UK trained physician named Dr. Hastings Kamuzu Banda. After successfully leading Malawi to independence in 1964, Dr. Banda revealed a shocking duality. To the West, during the Cold War, he was an absolute darling. He wore tailored suits, maintained a capitalist model, and was viewed as a totally safe pair of hands. But internally, he ruled with an absolute iron fist. We're talking a strict one-party state, brutal censorship, routine political assassinations, and mass imprisonments.
He achieved this through a bizarre, unique ideology, often called doctorism. It was a highly paternalistic and autocratic system, basically an incredible hybrid of Western democratic optics combined with rigid African cultural authority. It effectively crushed all political dissent and demanded absolute, unquestioning obedience for 3 full decades.
Section 4. The democratic transition. Look, the iron grip of Dr. Banda just couldn't last forever.
By the early 90s, immense pressure from a very vocal civil society, religious groups, and international actors began cracking the regime. And then, in a massive display of public will, A staggering 88% of the electorate showed up for a historic 1993 referendum. 88%. They decisively rejected the one-party state and forced a sudden, dramatic end to Banda's 30-year rule. During those pivotal 1994 multi-party elections, a jubilant festival atmosphere completely washed over the country. This profound civic energy ushered in the presidency of Bakili Maluzi, a vibrant free press, and a thrilling new era of democratic hope.
Which brings us to Section 5, Modern Challenges and Opportunities. Because as the dust settled on that democratic dawn, the new government had a serious wake-up call.
They were forced to confront a severely dilapidated, structurally imbalanced economy. Today, this nation of 16 million people is burdened by intense structural crises. The poverty rate is staggeringly high, with the majority living on less than $1.25 a day. Life expectancies? They hover around just 46 years, driven largely by an endemic malaria and HIV crisis. Globally, they sit at a very low 165th in GDP rankings. On top of that, their agrarian system remains highly vulnerable to external shocks. You know, economic history matters immensely. This is a huge takeaway. Decades of poorly managed foreign direct investment, those colonial land grabs, and a massive failure to invest in human capacity have entrenched poverty deeply into the rural areas. It's just like the source material says, simplistic economic theories simply don't work here. The reality is multifaceted, it's messy, and it's deeply tied to the history we just went through.
But wait, despite these daunting figures, there are genuinely exciting opportunities right on the horizon. The country can harness its abundant natural resources in completely new ways. Think sustainable biofuel production, using soya, palm sap, or jatropha to power modified rural diesel generators. There's also massive potential in expanding hydropower on the Shire River, protecting critical highland water catchments, and investing in carefully monitored aquaculture to rebuild those spectacular fish stocks in Lake Malawi.
The overarching lesson here, what we really need to take away from this, is that raw natural resources simply aren't enough on their own. Unlocking Malawi's true future wealth requires a total departure from the patronage politics of the past. It's going to demand a fierce, unwavering commitment to building accountable, visionary institutions, an environment that can actually attract sustainable investment and finally invest properly in the Malawian people.
So, as the warm heart of Africa continues to write its modern story, I want to leave you with this final thought. The history is heavy, yes, but the potential is absolutely undeniable. With its democratic foundations laid and resources abundant, will Malawi's next chapter finally match the wealth of its ancient heritage? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and keep questioning how the past fundamentally shapes our present.